Well, hello again, Maverick traders, and welcome out. This is talking to Maverick Currencies here, and this is a market recap for September the 20th. It's a Tuesday, and we are patiently waiting for this upcoming FOMC key event. So let's talk about it. Let's see how the markets are moving ahead of this FOMC statement, and how we're going to position ourselves up here. So let's do a quick market analysis and see how things are moving in this past 24 hours. So starting with the equity markets, again, we've seen markets kind of go back and forth. We had a bit of a better day on a Monday, and then we are seeing a total reversal today. So the market stays weak, and at this point, we have this June or July lows that right sitting at the bottom here. And at this point, market looks weak going into this. So unless we see something different, I think the markets are already moving ahead of that event with a lot more weakness. So looking at the percentage returns across the board today, again, the stock markets again down, cryptos were down, gold and oil, everything was down. So market just resuming its downtrend that started last week after that, after those the surprise CPI print. So not a whole lot of changes to report in the markets. I think it's pretty clear where things are, and we'll just be ready to trade that news event tomorrow. Based on what comes out with the statement and how hawkish the FedChair will be. We got the only news event that was kind of unfocused today was the Canadian CPI, and that was surprisingly onto the lower side. So again, we're seeing the Canadian dollar actually weakened after the CPI print. So that's something we'll be paying attention to in the next 24 to 48 hours. So as we take a look at the charts, again, very similar looking chart with the World Stock Index, and in the crypto world as well, we are seeing more weakness. So as you can see with that, we are seeing some positive days in between, but the trend is still to the downside. So keep in mind that the trend is still pretty stronger to the downside. Now, as far as the market outlook goes, we're still sitting at a -2 so far. There's no better way to paint the picture. Unless there's a reversal tomorrow, we'll probably see the market continues its downslide until it hit that support here. But again, anything can happen on a Fed event. So be prepared for to act depending on how market move one way or the other. So that will be the big focus tomorrow. Again, the FOMC statement comes out at about 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We won't be really doing much overnight and tomorrow until this event comes out. I think this is the big market moving event, and that will again set the tone for going into the Asian markets tomorrow. Also remember that we have the Bank of Japan tomorrow night as well. So next 24 to 48 hours, it's pretty busy. We have the FOMC, Bank of Japan, and the Swiss National Bank. So that's where most of the movement's going to be, and then the Bank of England. So all of that is coming out in the next 24 to 48 hours, and that's really the time where we want to be active. So far, this couple of days has been mixed, so not really the greatest opportunity. And again, this is where we try to be on the sideline and not trade too much ahead of that event, because that's where you want to act when that movement take place. So let's do a quick currency analysis, take a look at percentage change and see how things moved. And again, starting with the currency market, you can see there was a bit of a mixed picture today. I mean, the Kiwi has been consistently weak. We talked about it in our currency recap yesterday, and that's what we pointed out, that this was really where the weakness was, and it just continues. So the first couple of days has been pretty weak on the Kiwi, and at this point, it will take some positive between, but the trajectory is actually much on the downside here, as the currency basket for the Kiwi is moving lower. The Canadian dollar is an interesting one. I've covered this in the past couple of sessions here. This print today was not a good, not a bullish thing for the CAD. And if you are on the bullish camp for the CAD, I think this is where we could see some potential further downside, because with this turning that CPI lower, again, the expectation for Bank of Canada to be as hawkish kind of scales back as well. And remember, right now, what's moving the markets? Inflation numbers and the central banks. So we still have some time for next in October for the next Bank of Canada meeting, but I think until then we could see some relative weakness in the CAD. But outside of that, we have seen consistent gains in the dollar ahead of this. I think dollar looks pretty strong. The Japanese yen is holding it better as well. And again, this is where we have the Bank of Japan, the rate statement that's coming out, and there's, we'll see what happens. So far, not a whole lot that we've seen from Bank of Japan, but at the same time, we need to be a little bit more aware of any sort of changes or pivoting from Bank of Japan. So we'll see what that happens. Outside of that, the Swiss franc really took the lead today. Again, we talk about Swiss franc being a little bit weak, after Friday's move. But so far now we're seeing the Swiss franc kind of coming back in play. So it seems like currencies that have the bank of the central banks that are kind of making a run. We had the Swiss bank as well, expected to raise rates, and so far we're seeing that the Swiss franc is catching a bit to the upside. So pretty standard kind of price action overall, waiting for those news event to kind of really come and go, because that's really going to set the tone for currencies to kind of move one way or the other. As far as the crypto markets, again, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of consistency. We see a couple of days down, a couple of days up. Trajectory overall is down, so keep in mind. Now, looking at the currency baskets and taking a look at velocity scores, taking a lead a little bit here on the negative side, we have the Canadian dollar and the Kiwi. Again, that's where the weakness is. But notice that there's a whole lot of currencies that we have so far that's sitting right in the middle, which is ready to shift one way or the other. So the Aussie's kind of holding it steady, where the Kiwi's really taking a hit over here, and then we have the Japanese yen kind of sitting as steady or zero as well. So the relative strength is really in the Swiss franc and the dollar, but again, this could change as well after tomorrow when we get the Swiss bank and we get the FOMC out of the way. So this is, again, a heavy loaded week in the second half of the week, and we're ready to make that change. There's not a whole lot that we kind of get from velocity scores right now, because things can really change tomorrow. So we'll see how the price action is overnight, but let's take a look at possible trades ahead, and we'll be talking about some of the opportunities that we're kind of looking at ahead of this the key Fed event. So the dollar is really what's really running. And again, a lot of times, you get this buy the rumors, sell the news. I think the dollar could be setting up for that so far. Very aggressive price action to the upside here, already getting a move. So I think initially we'll have to see the price action likely to be positive, as the markets are already pricing in that 75 basis rate point rate hike. But again, the big movement's likely to come off the Fed Chair Powell press conference, and that's where really we could see some movements in the dollar. But the dollar, I think we should be ready to kind of act both ways. What if the dollar is stronger, or what if the dollar is weaker? That's how you should prepare for all these news events. And right now, I think at this point is we see a lot of extension to the upside. 4-hour chart, it was kind of showing us that it wants to go higher. But what we need to watch out for is any sort of blow off tops, meaning that we see a big run higher and then it kind of reverses. Again, these are typical news event price action that we can possibly get, and we need to be prepared for both case scenarios. Outside of the dollar, again, if for a bullish case scenario, I really like dollar CAD to the upside. Again, I talk about how CAD really took a bit of a break today, and looking at the currency basket, CAD is really threatening to kind of break below the upward trend line that has been in place. And if that kind of negative correlation going to come in play, I think the dollar CAD could easily try to climb up a little bit up to this 136 area. So the dollar CAD goes on the up list, on the bullish list here. Now let's take a look at what else we can find. Kiwi dollar already making a run. Look at that. We're already approaching that 2020 lows here. So far, the dollar CAD onto the upside and the Kiwi dollar to the downside. These are the bullish case scenarios that we can find for dollar CAD, for the dollar itself. But let's say if the dollar is weak, I think right now there's not a whole lot we can find. Aussie dollar, same thing. It's looking pretty weak here on the daily chart. So far, it looks a little bit better than the Kiwi dollar, but Aussie dollar is still moving lower. And taking a look at some of the pairs that I think could have a potential move tomorrow is a dollar yen. Dollar yen is hovering around that 145, which we know is a very key level of resistance. I think that will be the big play tomorrow, dollar yen. We can also pay attention to what happened with dollar Swiss franc, considering Swiss franc looks pretty strong over here. But I think if we want to just stay away from the Swiss franc until the Swiss bank event, I think we can just pay attention to the dollar yen. I think that could be a trade to watch ahead of this key event. So we'll be lowering our time frames, looking at more on an hourly chart or 15-minute chart for initial entry. And like I said, wait for the initial price action to kind of play out, and after that we'll just see whichever way we get a bit of a follow through. So we'll be covering this live tomorrow when we meet. At for the midweek update, and we'll be covering this FOMC event live. So make sure you register for that class, and then Corey will be taking you through that the midweek the FOMC. So busy day ahead. Again, this is where keep the powder dry, not trade when you shouldn't be trading. I mean, there's bigger opportunities in the next 24, 48 hours, even going to Friday. So looking for those currency to set some tone, and then looking for the next big move that's upon us. Either it's on the bullish side or it's on the bearish side. As a trader, we just need to be prepared for both case scenarios. Till then, take care. Have a good night.